For those of you who have been reading Jack Carr's new book, Only the Dead, early in the book, James Reese gets his new pistol. And it is the Sig P210 customized by Bruce Gray. Now that is a very specific niche and kind of unexpected pick. And with that said, here's a video on James Reese's new pistol.
Wait. Let's back up. The Sig P210 has a rich history. It was the Swiss military service pistol from 1949 to 1975. It was issued to the Danish military for a stunning 70 years. The 210 is arguably the finest standard issue military pistol of all time and is considered to be the most accurate semi-auto handgun in the world. The gun does, however, leave some modern upgrades to be desired. Astute viewers have already recognized this isn't your standard affair P210.
All right, let's go.
One more mag. Well, he just said it, let's do the damn thing. So
that's usually Jake's line.
The damn thing is what we shall do. That is exactly what we're going to do. Today we're talking about the Sig P210, and what a fascinating pistol this is. It's a very fascinating pistol, and for those of you who just watched the intro, you may have sort of gotten a little bit of a wink and a nod that this is not really a standard issue Sig P210 that we're talking about today. No. It is in fact what would be called, what is the technical name for what you guys called this?
So we called this the Gray Guns Bruiser P210.
Spicy.
Yeah.
Spicy. So this is going to be cool. We're gonna spend we'll talk a little bit of history of what the P210 sort of was, and I say was just because it's less used now than it historically was. And then we're going to really dive into that specific sort of I don't know what we call it, limited run, special edition, you know, whatever you want.
Limited custom pistol.
Before we do that, do you know what my hips need on a daily basis?
A belt.
You goddamn right they do.
You know what belt is on those hips?
I do.
Ciguera. Why do we run Ciguera belts?
Because
you want to show them?
There it is, right? It's right above his package, right? That's where you run a belt. Is that where you wear your belt?
Yeah.
Like right above the, you know. They're good. They've got the battle wagon. We use that as a battle belt. They've got the emissary. I think we both really rock the light inner Velcro belt as an EDC belt. Yep. And then what's cool is you can just throw the battle belt on top of that, and then you got yourself a battle belt, right? So if you're in, you know, wherever and shit pops off and you got that light inner Velcro, right? You just throw that battle belt on. Yep. Now you're ready for battle, right?
1911 Syndicate. All lowercase, no spaces, will save you 10%.
Yeah, Diaz for our Spanish viewers.
Diaz, not Diaz, Diaz.
Oh, sorry, Diaz.
There you go. Good.
Okay,
that was good. Yeah.
Okay, good. So let's do a little history here before we get into the actual gun itself. So I'll break this down. There's the Sig that you guys think of, and then there's Sig Sauer AG, which existed long before actual US Sig, right? Yeah. Dating back to the freaking mid-1800s. Isn't that pretty wild?
It's so cool. Those European brands that have like that 100-year history is just cool.
Just legacy stuff. And for those of you that may ever venture to Switzerland, I mean, I've been in Townsend. I know it sounds like a super douchey thing to say, but it's like I've been in Townsend.
I've been to Switzerland.
Where you see like literally like old abandoned gunsmithing, where it still says like gunsmith on the building. You're like, this is not a new building. Like this thing has literally been around for like a couple hundred years.
Yeah.
And it's really cool. So Switzerland does have a rich history of firearms. But production on the P210 began in 1948. That's when it came about. There will be some correlations to 1911s we will make as we go, but that'll be, you know, for a different section. Adopted by the Swiss Army and police, used from 1949 to 1975. It was called the Pistole 49. Okay. Yeah, because it was adopted in 1949. So I don't know if they say a pistole, but that's how
that sounds more Italian.
Italian, but Switzerland is close to Italy.
We're just grabbing at European countries.
Yeah, pistole. So the Pistole 49, ran through 1975. 1975, it was replaced as a service weapon by the Sig P220. The gun continued to be manufactured to 2006. You can find some Swiss ones in the U.S. I think you might have, we'll get into this when we get into the gun, but I think you do have a little bit of tie-in with that, as we'll get into. They're not cheap and they're not easy to find, so, there is a U.S. version. That was the P210A, which was released in 2017. Of note on the Euro versions, they were also used by the German police. They were also used by the Danish military for 7 decades.
Really?
Up until about 2018, 2019, replaced by another Sig pistol.
Really?
Like literally 70 years. That was their service weapon.
That's kind of cool.
Like very, very cool stuff, right? And so there's arguments, right? It's all debatable and everything. There's arguments that it is the finest standard issue service pistol of all time.
Well, the Danish sure agree with that.
Clearly.
Yeah.
And there's also arguments that it is the most accurate semi-auto handgun of all time.
Most accurate production semi-automatic 9mm is absolutely something that is pretty well known.
Yeah, yeah.
The P7 wouldn't be that?
I mean, look, I don't know.
One of their claims also?
I mean, based on barrel length, I feel like that one would get tough. So I don't know. The answer is I don't truly know.
Just cool, yeah, we're just shooting shit.
But it's like, this is known to be like, this is as accurate as a production pistol can get.
Cool.
For semi-auto, so anyway, so MSRP on the US variants is right at $1,800. They are still in production today, so you still can find those. All steel construction, 8-round magazine. This will be a little bit different, as we will get into. They're single stack only, and then kind of one of the hallmark features is that the rails are actually on the slide versus the frame.
So when I started
totally
posting
different
pictures of this, people were going like, oh, it's like a CZ75. This predates the CZ75 by a substantial margin.
Sure.
And so, do I know that the P210 was the first? No, but no, the CZ75 was not the first gun to do that, although in the US, it is probably the most well-known gun to have the
like
rails.
Inverted rails.
Rails. So
so we'll get into the gun for 1 second for any of you looking for a way to support the channel. 1911syndicate.com will tell you pretty much everything you need to know. We're a real estate business. We actually, that is, not a joke for anyone that maybe doesn't get it, who's heard that for like 3 years. We actually help you guys buy and sell real estate. Yep. We've got a lot of cool people we've been working with lately, actually. Yeah. I just don't like naming names because I don't know the folks that like their name out there or don't. So we just say, hey, we get to help a lot of cool people, and it's
cops,
really
law
neat.
Enforcement, military, first responders.
All kinds of cool stuff. So hit us up for that. We've also got a newsletter where you guys can kind of stay up to date on any like product releases that we do. We actually do put a little bit of real estate news in there just so you guys can, like responsible adults, stay in tune with what's happening in the world. And then last thing, we've got our Patreon for those of you that want to just like tip us like strippers. You can go over there and get some bonus content and giveaways. We got Gen 2s of the Zippos coming out. It's like a Pablo Escobar theme. They're gold. They're cool. So anyway, you
do private classes. We don't host them. We host them. We have instructors come out. There's a lot on Patreon.
A lot on. So I don't even want to we'll get into it at a different time. So, okay, let's get into the actual gun, because to me this was fascinating and kind of backstory. And how did we get to this thing? So
it's very similar to you. I'm very much a 1911 guy, and I came to appreciate custom pistols while I was in active duty. I joined my first platoon, into my second platoon, and I had a guy in my platoon who was a huge 1911 guy, and pulled out a Chuck Rogers 1911, and I racked the slide, and my view on pistols kind of changed. The first time you rack the slide on a custom gun, and you're like,
it's like a spiritual experience.
What is this, and why have I not ever felt this before?
Yeah.
Yep.
And so, fast forward, I'm very blessed to have the friends that I do and have the connections, and so I have some 1911s from a lot of people. I became friends with Bruce Gray of Gray Guns, and there's a lot of guys who build really nice 1911s, but Bruce is one of those guys that is known for some kind of different guns, and one of them was a railed P210 that he built for a friend of his who was a law enforcement officer in the Bay Area, that I had a picture saved on my phone for like 5 years of. And all the things you talked about, which was the fact that it's known to be unlike a 1911, that's a 45 pistol that's now downsized to shoot 9mm, whatever. The P210 was built as a 9mm pistol, known to be ridiculously accurate, very proven law enforcement military firearm. The European versions very much had a bottom mag release. And so it did not have a standard style mag release on the side like we do on more modern pistols. It was a bottom release. Much less of a protruded beaver tail, lots of things going on with, just an old pistol from the 40s.
Sure.
And so you fast forward, and I saw that pistol, and I was talking to Bruce, and I said, you know what? I want a custom gun from you, but I was like, I don't want it to be a 1911. And even though he had 40 years of building them, I was like, because there's not a lot of guys who have ever built a tactical railed P210. So I actually, like you said, I went and found, this was before the release of the P210A, I went and found a brand new inbox P210-6 from like 1989. And brand new, still had a Cosmoline on it. Got the gun, gave it to Bruce, and Bruce was looking at it like, brand new in box with test target, with the patch.
That's cool.
He was like, I really don't want to cut on this.
Right. I don't want to chop this thing out.
And so it kind of, Bruce, I love you. He kind of dragged his feet a little bit, and he's like, and right
send it.
And then my guns are all like the 001 serial numbers and whatever. I don't care. Like my guns are shooters.
Yeah.
And so I was like, Bruce, let's do this right as the P210A was released. And the P210A, released by Sig US, offered some things that he didn't have to address. And so they made some changes internally, as well as gave a standard side release mag. They then made more magazines that were already retrofit for that style mag release. So you didn't have to modify an old magazine to fit. And then offered a more protruded beaver tail. And so kind of took some of the things that he would have had to do with metalwork
and just did it.
Shaved it off from our list of concerns.
Nice.
And so I wanted to make kind of my perfect gunfighter, I know it's an overused term, a purpose-built duty P210. And what does that have on it? And so Bruce and I sat down, and he goes, hey, I'm going to print out a picture of a P210A, and we just did grayscale. And he goes, I want you to draw with a pen what you want on the gun, and how you want the design of everything. So picking up a P210A, Sig's not going to like me on this statement. The controls are terrible. They are. The safety, the slide stop, they're super sharp. They're aesthetically pleasing. They were made to make the gun look really smooth. They have sharp edges. They're not super usable. And so I very much that was the first thing I wanted to address, was taking the cues off of many custom 1911s. If you guys look at the gun up closer in some of the B-roll photos, whatever, you guys are going to notice similarities to a safety very much shaped like you'd see on a 1911. The style and contour of the thumb safety is very similar to you'd find in a 1911.
Very nice thumb safety too. I gotta say.
And so very nicely.
I ended up drawing these on a piece of paper, side profile, what I wanted, where I wanted serrations, and Bruce put it onto metal.
That's cool.
And so I wanted to add a light rail.
So how does that work?
So I wanted to add a light rail, I wanted a mag well and forward cocking serrations, and then we added things like rear slide serrations, which I personally prefer on a custom gun. The light rail is what he had added to a previous gun, and after many conversations, the square trigger guard, which ended up being one of Bruce's, the things that he ended up fighting the most during these builds, was actually his idea. That he said, well, if we're going to do a light rail, then we're going to do a square trigger guard too. And I said, cool, man, let's do it.
The standard P210As.
It is a rounded trigger guard.
Okay.
And so what we did is Bruce chopped the trigger guards off and then designed a rail that could be welded onto the receiver. The rail is then screwed from the top of the rail, and the inside of the frame is threaded. That screw has then the trigger guard sit on top of it and is welded, so the screw cannot back out, yet is giving a thread into the frame.
That's cool.
To add.
Smart.
So you can't see it, you can't find it, you can't.
It's an encapsulated screw.
But it gives that extra attachment point into the frame. It's then welded on the front, and then he blends everything. And so the biggest thing I see people go is like, oh, that's really cool. You guys made railed frames. No, he did not.
It's all custom.
This is all Bruce's handwork.
very cool.
That's, you know, I mean, that really is pretty
Yeah.
impressive, because when you look at it, that just looks like that's how that gun comes.
Yeah, I thought it was just the frame.
No.
You know, like, it's pretty damn good. That's pretty damn good.
And so the other things that we had to come up with, Bruce had to develop 12 new parts, including new guide rod, the safety, the slide stop, the trigger, the hammer is a spur hammer, very similar to like a Colt Commander. We did 10/8 sights with Hilton Yam. We did the magwell, which is also a weld on. We then also did custom grips with Hogue. So those are Hogue grips with the Gray Guns medallions on them. Did front cocking and rear of slide serrations.
So there's no serrations in the factory one?
Nope.
That's weird.
Those are hand done by Bruce.
Yeah, boy, that's interesting.
And then I kind of threw some things in that I thought people at the price point that the guns come at would like. And so we had Barstow thread the barrel, or not thread, excuse me. We had Barstow flute the barrels.
Mm-hmm.
So the barrels are fluted. And,
So it's and a Barstow barrel.
no,
Or
it's actually, it's a factory barrel that is
Okay.
fluted by Barstow
Okay.
and then
Oh, cool.
recoated.
Got it.
Oh, cool.
And then the biggest thing is, like you've already alluded to, is we did +2 extensions, which then takes the capacity from 8 to 10+1.
Now, I must say on this note, okay, I say this with all due respect and love, but so as mentioned in our little intro here, if for anyone that's reading Jack Carr's book in Only the Dead,
The newest book.
without doing any spoilers here, James Reese gets this gun,
Yes.
you know, which was really cool. I was reading the book, and we already had this video playing, and I'm like, well, this is just fantastic.
Yeah.
And the only clerical error in the book is they say 8-round capacity on the mags, and it kind of turns into a little bit of a thing in the book. And I was like, that's the one place you guys missed it. They're 10s that come on the Gray Bruiser
So
gun.
with this gun, I told Bruce, I said, being a single stack gun, I said, I want the guns to come with 6 magazines.
Yeah, great.
So
great.
we did, every gun comes with 6 magazines in the case. They all have the +2 base pads, and they've all been test fired with, every magazine is test fired with the gun.
Oh, that's
so cool, man.
And so the goal was, and then we also did obviously a extended safety, which Jake then got to fight today. So
Yeah.
Or mag release?
Oh, sorry, mag release.
Yeah. You know, obviously that gun's not made really with lefties in mind, because it's not an ambidextrous safety and yada. But that's neither here nor there. It's like, this is just one of those, hey, you just have to know what you're getting. Like, hey, that is what it is. I guess maybe perhaps the bad news for anyone watching this who's like, hey, that's super cool, is you can't really get them.
No, so much to many people's chagrin, it ended up being that the time it takes, surprise, to figure out not only how to make one of these, but then make it so it's repeatable, and repeatable 50 times.
Yeah.
And in a way that, and then the development and prototyping and test firing of a gun with 12 new parts just takes a long time.
Yeah.
And so from showing this concept, it took till now is about 2.5 years. And many people, you know, love to, you know, go like, hey, when are those going to come out? And I said, I refused to let them slide until we had not only the production gun done, but had like 6,000, 8,000 plus rounds on the production gun to make sure that everything was golden.
Yeah.
And so we hit that point, and then the first 10 have now been completed and are in the hands of the first 10 on the wait list.
Yeah. And the total number that was going to be made was 50.
50.
But basically they're all spoken for.
So what happened was once we put a prototype out, and if you are into custom guns, the way this ends up 2 ways. Either you order it and there's a deposit, and then you pay the remaining balance, or some people want you to pay the whole up front.
Sure.
And I said, hey, the only way, especially with the fact that they wanted a gun, I wanted to take a list off the prototypes so we could get an idea of how many to order, was I said, we need to buy the base guns, take a list, and we just start at number 1, and you just get called when the guns are getting close. You have no money in. There was no money put up front.
It's right here, right now.
Right here, your gun is being finished. You have, 2, 3, 4 weeks to get the money together. They know it's coming. They've been watching my Instagram, Gray Guns Instagram, and know what number they are in line. If you don't want it at that time or think you might want it later, you can pass.
Okay.
But your name either goes to the end of the list, or the next person gets called.
So you could still join the list then. Maybe?
We had 50 people, and we have a 30-person waiting list past the 50 people.
Okay.
And with the first 10, we've had nobody pass. So
well, that's a good track record. And what's the price on these bad boys? I know, but what's the price?
So the price on these is $5,002.10,
Check that out.
Which-
how clever is that?
Why?
which is a
Oh, for the
steal.
210.
210.
Oh,
Yeah,
cool.
come on. Yeah.
Yeah, which is a steal, which some people are going to balk at that price. Again, you said 12 parts, the machining, the work done into it. Like,
Fully
guys, this
custom
is a
gun.
fully custom gun. This is
If
like,
you guys want more pictures, please go look at my Instagram.
Yeah.
There's actually a tab that shows all of the work that goes into, especially the light rail process.
Yes.
And the thing is with Bruce is Bruce. Everybody knows Gray Guns for Sig drop-in triggers, trigger jobs, that kind of stuff. HK. Bruce has been a gunsmith for like 40 plus years, and builds his metallurgy and metalwork is unreal. I mean, he does a long slide comped P7.
Huh.
Like
Cool.
just crazy stuff. And so Bruce, when we talked about pricing, was still thinking, I think, of like prices how they were 10, 15 years ago. And I was trying to go like, hey, if you look at comparable, even semi-custom guns
Yeah.
of the 1911 variety,
At $5,000.
$5,000 is
Yeah.
Yeah.
like you're getting into the ballpark
Sure.
of
Yeah.
most Wilson, Nighthawk, So there's a lot of work into these guns.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, and for those of you that might be kind of 1911 guys, I think it's completely fair to liken this to like kind of Swiss, even though it's not technically Swiss, but it's like a Swiss 1911. You go, yeah, I'd say it's a pretty fair statement. I mean, the trigger's fantastic. The trigger on that gun is fantastic.
Remember those Hudson 9s? That trigger reminds me very much of that. And I mean that as a compliment. Like
Yeah.
the way that trigger moves and everything.
Way
So-
better version, but I do
Yes,
get where you're
you
going.
see what I'm going?
Yeah.
Way better. Way better. I'm just saying that's the closest comparison I would have.
And I have to, for my gun, I went to Gray Guns. I only live like 45 minutes away from Bruce. And I went and sat down while he assembled my gun so he could hand it to me, feel stuff, whatever, hand it back. Super cool experience. And it took Bruce like 4 hours to do the final fitting of all the parts to make sure everything was perfect. Like these guns are not just like hammer pins in and
Yeah.
like send them off.
No, you can
tell.
visually see that just looking at the gun. You're like, this took some
good-looking gun.
TLC to get this thing, and it shoots very, very nice. I mean, it shoots. When we were shooting it, I said honestly, it reminds me very much shooting in 1911.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like I mean, it really does.
Flat as shit, man.
Lot of, I mean, it's extremely low bore access. Extremely.
And the weight up front really does help that
Big
muzzle
time.
rise.
It's a very nice shooting.
Very
gun.
nice gun.
Got to be wild. Can you imagine doing that with an acro cut on it? How cool that would be.
So somebody's going to bring this up. Trust me, if the slide would have allowed it, there'd be a red dot on this too. The radius of the top of the slide just doesn't
doesn't
allow
work.
for a great optic cut.
Yeah.
Maybe the compact ones, like the smaller RM
that's
RCCs
right.
and
Yeah,
stuff,
yeah.
possibly. For right now, it's an iron sight gun. Yes, I know it should be double stack. You talk to Sig about it.
Yeah.
Email your congressman. I
Yeah,
don't know.
that's above the pay grade of this channel.
we
to
took
move that needle.
we took what we had in front of us, and I wanted a gun from Bruce, and I am overjoyed with how it came out.
It's cool. It's
Yeah.
really, really cool for those of us who kind of like playing in like niche categories, Sig 55X guns,
Sure.
and 1911s, all this kind of stuff. You're just like, this is very cool. And I get it. We're showing you something that really you can't buy. Like I get it. This is almost a dick move on our part. But
it's not.
Well, sometimes you just want to look at cool guns because it's fun to look at cool guns. You're like, hey, I can't afford a Lambo right now. I like looking at them.
If you have a P210, while you may not be able to get the Bruiser, there's a package called the Brawler. And so if you have a P210A or a P210 Target and you don't like the controls or whatever, Gray Guns is going to make an entire parts package.
Oh, cool.
So you can send your gun in. It won't have the rear slide serrations, the rail,
Sure.
whatever, but you can get the trigger, the mag release, the
Update
safety,
some of it.
and get the control package
Cool.
put into your pistol.
That
Which
would
is-
definitely be something to do if you had one of those pistols.
And the parts also then work on the P210 carry. So if the aluminum frame carry model, all the parts work. And so if you had that gun, you want to make it more of a carry-esque, more comfortable to shoot kind of combat pistol, they're all available.
That's cool.
Rock and roll.
Very cool.
Very cool. Very cool.
Yeah. I think that about wraps it up. The only thing we got is FLP.
So if I were carrying
Yeah.
a P210,
For self-defense.
and mugging, Jake's getting mugged, right? And I smoke someone with a P210. Bummer, that's confiscated temporarily. But if it's illegally justified shooting, I will get it back. But if it's also illegally justified shooting, I'm covered by
FLP, Firearms Legal Protection, which is
segue.
Firearms
Yep,
Legal
good segue.
Concealed Carry Insurance, right? It also covers, say, like, we use this in a legally justified self-defense scenario.
with him.
Okay. Then they're going to cover that too. I don't know if cops take that rock, but that's their problem, not mine. But we got multiple packages, right? You have the bachelor package.
Yeah.
It is not called that, but it should be.
Yeah.
FLP, you can bill me for that. Then
Just call it the Jake. You can just call it the Jake if you want.
And then there's a couple other packages. Mine covers me in all 50 states because I travel a bunch, and my wife, because I am married. You are not. Again, the bachelor Jake, right?
No.
Our code 1911 will save you about a third off each package, which ends up being a decent amount of money.
10, 20 bucks a month once all said and done. And hey, a lot of great perks. You can compare plans with different companies side by side, and you'll probably wind up going, yeah, they got a good point. That's a good service.
One of the biggest things is if you do, heaven forbid, get in a scenario you call, you're actually talking to a lawyer, not like a customer service representative.
Yeah.
Which...
Customer service rep ain't get me out of jail right now.
No.
So, that's how the deal works.
So thanks to the boys over at FLP. We appreciate you.
And thanks, hey, Bruce, for making a cool gun. This is cool. I'm glad we got to see this, and if we ever get to meet, that'd be freaking awesome,
Hopefully we do.
Yeah.
See you guys next time.
Later.